Oops.
I wonder if that's going to tell me. It does. We're rolling.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll get
Fun
started.
stuff.
10 minutes late, but on time.
There's a band there that kind of works.
Yeah. Welcome to the Lift Heavy Run Long podcast, episode number 69 with Jon Autrey. You can find us at www.liftheavyrunlong.com, on Twitter and Instagram at liftrunlong. Also, feel free to email me directly at the address wilson@liftheavyrunlong.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you are not a member of our Facebook group, you should be, because we want you to be there. Search for Lift Heavy Run Long Community and request to join right now. I am so excited we have everybody here.
Everybody's here.
I have my dazzling, fetching, fine, and foxy wife, Dr. Amanda Horrell, as I introduce her without looking at my computer screen.
He just made that up off the top of his head, Amanda.
Yeah.
That's strong.
Because last week, Vaughn called me out and got in front of my computer, and I had my introduction kind of written out. Even though it was my love language coming through, sometimes my heart needs to be reminded of what my head wants to say. Is that right?
Sounds
Anyways.
awesome.
Sure. That sounds good.
You're lovely. I love having you here. I love having you sit next to me. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How was your week?
It's been busy. Lots of working going on.
A lot of working,
Lives.
saving lives.
Yeah.
A lot of momming going on. You've been fantastic.
Working
To
on
the
projects.
kids.
Yeah. Working
Yep.
on school projects.
And believe it or not, Amanda is better at projects than I am. I know that's hard for some of you to believe.
And deadlifting.
And she deadlifted
315 pounds.
315 pounds
Put
Finally
a
made it
video
to
in
the
there.
club.
Strong.
in her work clothes, drinking a
Yeah.
Coors Light.
That's
There
right.
we go.
The day after running 22 miles at the 24-hour race.
That's perfect.
I said it's the definition of lift heavy run long.
That's a solid woman.
It doesn't get any better than that.
And then we have to Dr. Horrell's right is our friend Jon Autrey.
Hello.
And we're going to get to know everything we can possibly get to know about him in the span of 1 hour as soon as I get through with the introduction and some of the things that I want to talk about. And next to John, we have the Reverend,
That's me.
Mr. Von Rawls.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man.
How's your week?
It's good. Good.
Anything to speak of?
Not really.
No? Just come to a podcast with nothing to talk about.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm okay
Pressure's
with
on
that. I'm perfectly fine with that.
And sitting directly across from Von Rawls is back in action, back off of strike, got the terms of his contract renegotiated and worked
Finally
out.
got my pay right.
That's right. So we have the union formed, and the president of that union is the ketogenic cameraman, Christopher Perry.
Keto.
That's right. I'm ready and back.
Chris, you are a fantastic guy.
Oh, thank you.
You-
Hey, that was part of the contract too.
He has to say that.
Yeah, he has to sit there and compliment me.
He's got stuff typed down there. for
Yeah,
you
he's
too.
got it all written down. No, I wrote it down for him.
That was part of the problem. He was upset. His feelings were hurt that I didn't have
Yeah,
used
he
the,
kept saying
the same
nice things
love
about
language.
Amanda, but never said anything nice about me. So I made sure that was part of the contract.
But it's a new week, a new contract. Chris, it's good to have you here. Man, you have Chris has been responsible for finding the guests, and that's why we've been having such quality people. Not that we don't always have quality people, but he has also taken on the task of the shipping of the Lift Heavy Run Long products, and to put up with me in any capacity really says a lot about your character, because I am probably the most difficult person that I know to deal with, especially when it comes to things involving detail and things involving, well, really anything, I guess.
Well, since you brought that up,
Let's go ahead.
no,
I'm not going to be able to do that anymore.
Did you send that? Did you send that? What about that order? Have you sent that already?
Hey.
Hey, I was just wondering.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I was just wondering.
like
Did
I
you
can go
get
home and get this. I got 5 kids that sit there and pester the snot out of me.
that? I greatly appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
You've been fantastic.
Okay, we marked that off the contract list.
So we're good now.
Yeah.
We can move forward. Tunnel Hill training. How's that coming along?
It's actually going really good. I'm so excited. I just can't wait for it to get here. I think I'm good. I'm like, just let's go do this thing.
If they said we can just start it tomorrow and get it on, would you want to do that?
I would be ready to do that. Yes, I want to go there and I want to get it done. But at the same time, I want to experience that whole thing because I know it's going to be fun. It's going to be it's a huge deal, really. Not just running 100 miles, but lots of people are going. You know, my whole family, my wife and kids going. We got a hotel. We're all going to be there for the whole weekend, and it's
Where is it?
Vienna, Illinois.
Okay.
So it's about 3.5 hours away from here.
Okay.
And we're going to go on like a Friday and do the whole thing and then come back on Monday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
First 100?
Yeah.
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 I've never done that. I'm not going to have it anytime soon either.
They also have a 50 miler,
Okay.
and the 50 miler is because they have the 100 miler. You have the same amount of time to finish the 50 as you do the
Super
100.
okay.
So it's good for people like me who need all the time that they can to leisurely enjoy
Hey, you
the
know what I
sights of
was-
Vienna, Illinois.
You know what? I was looking at the results the other day, and we didn't go last year. We went the year before, right? But I was looking at the results from when we were there, and there was an 80-year-old person that ran the 50 miler in 29 hours and like 57 seconds.
All star.
Oh, that's
57 minutes, like 29:57.
Guessing
Really?
you have 30 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was
Right on.
like, but I did a double take because I was like, is 80? Is that 80 years old?
That's
Wow.
awesome.
That is
strong.
awesome.
That's crazy.
I hope
hard.
that celebration was
Yeah.
huge.
That's pretty fantastic.
I
Yeah.
have to track her down or track them down, get them on the
I
podcast.
don't,
Right?
Good idea.
I don't know if it was a man or a woman. I can't remember.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
That'd be a heck of a story to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I talked to our friend Andrea Rutledge today, who's helping me produce the Tunnel Hill documentary, and she's excited to meet everybody there. She's going to do the camera work. We're putting together a documentary of the people that are doing the Tunnel Hill 100 and the Tunnel Hill 50 miler.
That's really cool.
A lot of people's first 50, Vaughn's
Yeah.
first 100. And we have a friend of ours, a listener of the podcast, who volunteered to come and get a room and work the camera the weekend that we're there. So that's been fun. She's also very knowledgeable about documentaries and production. So that's been good. Keeping in touch with her, and she's excited to meet everybody. So all kinds of big stuff going on. We got confirmation from Brian Williams and Sean Hilsden that the Big Hill Pond race, the name of it is going to be the Walking Tall
Oh, good.
50K. Walking Tall Big Hill Pond 50K is on for October of 2018. I think it's October 22nd. Are you familiar with where Big Hill Pond is?
I am not.
It's only like an hour away.
Yeah, it's only like an hour and 15 minutes away. It's in Middleton. It's just outside of Pocahontas, Tennessee. which
Okay.
If you go straight out 57 and about an hour and a half,
Yeah.
you'll go through Middleton, Tennessee, then Pocahontas, Tennessee.
Is that where Buford Pusser was from?
That's correct.
It's part
That's
of
why
it,
they're
yeah.
calling it Walking Tall.
That's correct also.
Nice.
And they couldn't call it they had to make sure that they could call it Walking Tall because someone owns the rights to Walking Tall.
Really?
Not only did somebody own the rights to it, but someone bought the rights from the person who owned the rights to it. So it's near and dear to somebody.
Well, actually,
in
if
Hollywood.
you kind of go
Clearly.
back and look at the history of it, Dwayne
there's
Johnson, The Rock.
The movie.
Yeah, there's
The Rock has something to do with it.
Yeah.
that was a remake.
Yeah.
But so there's been a couple movies
Yeah.
about that dude. Probably more than that.
Yeah.
There were two popular ones.
But you could tell those are two responsible people to even ask someone's permission to call it the Walking Tall.
For some 50K
Yeah,
out in the middle of
I
Tennessee.
would have just
like,
I would have
yeah.
just said, "Hey, I'm doing a race. It's called Walking Tall."
Right.
But don't tell anybody it's called Walking Tall until after we have the T-shirts printed up
Right.
and sold.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that's how I roll. Just wait for the cease and desist letter, and then
I
guess
for
they're
forgiveness,
serious.
not permission.
unless you want to use lift heavy run the LHRL symbol, then you don't do that.
Right. Don't use
For
our stuff.
everything else.
Anybody else's. Ours is sacred, though. As if people are lining up to use it. Valerie Hunt is doing some programming for Lift Heavy Run Long.
She is.
We have some programs for sale on the website, and I am super jacked about that because of the fact that we have an app that the programs are assigned to, so we get to be in contact with whoever buys these programs. Not only does Valerie get to be in contact with them, I get to be in contact with them, which means I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm nobody's trainer. I'm not knowledgeable in that area. However, I love cheerleading and I love people, so I get to kind of see people improving themselves and what they got going on in the weight room or in the fitness area or out on the track, and that's going to be a lot of fun for me. And we're privileged to have Valerie Hunt of Run RX, who is definitely knowledgeable in her field. Super excited about that. 24-hour race. Missed you there, Vaughn. The Tour de Spirit, Haiti medical missions. John, you're acting as if you should have been there.
I have been invited by another great Memphis runner, Olaf Schultz,
Yes.
to do it for the
Olaf.
last 4 years. The 3 prior years I've been out of town the last 3 years. And this year I was in town, but as I mentioned while we were hanging out, I had family in town this last weekend here to meet the new baby. So they hadn't been to town just to come hang out in almost 20 years since they moved away. Oh, wow. And so it kind of
Yeah.
goes like, hey, I'm going to go run a lot because y'all are in town. So,
Olaf works with my mother-in-law,
wow.
and so I get to hear a lot of stories about Olaf, and he probably gets to hear a lot of stories about me, and he's probably like, oh, yeah, like, who is this guy you're talking about? But my mother-in-law talks about him. Well, obviously I know who he is.
Sure.
But it's just funny that I always imagine him like having to listen to a story about me running a 50-mile race when he's like the guy that won the race. And my mother-in-law's going, and my son-in-law ran that race too in like 9 hours, and he probably like they're in 4 hours. I just imagine he's probably like,
And being
yeah.
the good guy that Olaf is, he would listen to every word of it too. Like, he's a good dude.
I don't know anything about him. He seems like a really nice guy.
is.
The only thing that I know for sure about Olaf is that Joker can run.
Yes.
can.
God almighty, he can run.
He's got this incredible mane he's grown out too. Like it's like this long flowing brown mane that's just like it's like, wow, are you in a shampoo commercial? It's like,
So he looks like Rico Suave.
he kind of does, like flowing,
Well, if I was Olaf, I would definitely have the main thing going
I would.
on because that would look good. Amanda, I owe you an apology. I got to the 24-hour race. I was so excited because I had my Lift Heavy Run Long shirt and I was ready to drop the top. I cut the sleeves off of them and put that shirt on, and I thought, "Whoo, I put on a few pounds. This thing's a bit snug." And it was Amanda's medium shirt. Once I got in it, I thought I'd never get out of it. But I had a moment of panic, and that was the last of that color of shirt that we have.
Amanda, he actually has tried his best to replace that one. He's actually got in a panic and texted me, do we have any more of the bright blue ones?
I'm pleading. Do you think we can find them?
Yeah, we can find them.
She's pretty hot. I'm in hot water.
Okay, well, just for you, if you'll stay off my tail.
Well, I didn't know it till I did laundry and I was folding shirts and I pulled my shirt out and fluffed it and I was like, why aren't the sleeves coming in this thing? And I was like, oh my God, what happened to my shirt? I was like, oh my God.
I thought I told y'all via text. Maybe if y'all would pay more attention to me and didn't spend so much time picking on me.
I was working probably. I don't.
Yeah, that's true.
I even knew about this.
Yeah.
I must have
Which
missed the
is-
text and didn't read it.
Y'all were too busy making fun of my GIFs.
Your GIFs or GIFs.
Is it GIFs or is it GIFs? I don't know.
According to the IT
Say GIF.
expert.
GIF?
Just say Jeff
Okay.
and
Just peanut butter.
be done with it.
GIF it is.
But
It's kind of like the thing we were talking about. Well, we weren't talking about that. we were at the when Amanda lifted all that incredible amount of weight. We had this discussion, or I had a discussion with somebody. I don't know who it was, but he was deadlifting, and he goes, I'm going to post a video of this. He said, does it matter if I drop the bar, or does it matter if do I set the bar down? And I said, well, it depends on if you're going to put a video on the internet or not. Because if you're going to put a video on the internet and you drop it, some douchebag's going to go, that doesn't count, right? Because you dropped the bar and you're supposed to sit it down. Where am I going with this? What were you talking about?
The gifs.
Exactly. So, you know what? Say GIF if you want to, but if you're on a microphone and you're going to put something out there, just say GIF so nobody goes, hey, you're supposed to pronounce it GIF.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, apparently my GIFs are inadequate
whatever.
in size. That my new ones
tiny.
are now small.
They're really small.
He has a tiny GIF.
I have a tiny GIF, and they just won't let up on me about it, and it hurts. And I don't know what to do to make it bigger.
Well,
Where are we
Gonna have
going
to
with that?
accept it.
if you
And
go,
I feel like if I put it on the internet, then somebody's going to say something about it. So I'll just.
if you have a problem with the tiny GIF, just go to enlargeyourgif.com/liftheavyrunlong for a 20%
24-hour GIF enlargement.
Just take this little blue pill.
We call it the vector.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think there was anything. I was going to go into my crappy diet, but nothing's new about that. So we're going to learn a
Did
little
you fall
bit.
off the wagon?
Oh, man. I have fallen off the wagon. I took it
No
over
wonder.
with me.
There at first, I was getting updates in the morning. Oh, I did good yesterday, and eating almonds and.
No,
last
I've
day
been
or
on.
so.
I've been on last Tuesday. Ever since Tuesday, I've been back on. But this
Okay.
weekend, I absolutely destroyed it, like on a mission. You wouldn't believe it. Out there at the 24-hour race, you're eating junk because junk is all right. But then on the way home, the only reason I stayed from 1 in the morning until any later than that is because Dodge's Pizza closes at 1 a.m. So I missed my pizza window. So I felt like I needed to just hang around until I could order my pizza at 10. And, of course, I used my pizza app. And they don't allow you to order the pizza until 10:20 because it takes time to prepare
They
it.
have a Dodge's pizza
A
app.
pizza
They
app.
do.
That's strong.
It is
I
strong.
thought Dodge's was just a gas station.
They're not
Well,
screwing around.
Stick
man.
with me, Chris. I can teach you some things. They're not screwing around at all.
No.
You can put ranch as your pizza sauce, or you can put ranch and pizza sauce.
Okay.
And you can go up there. They
Which
have their
nobody would ever do that. I can't
No.
imagine why anyone would put ranch on anything like that.
They
or
call
anything
me
at all.
every time to ask me if I meant to put ranch and pizza sauce on there.
Well, it's interesting you say someone wouldn't put ranch as pizza sauce, but I saw today some kind of like anniversary drink. Tim Hortons, the Canadian, whatever. They're releasing a buffalo latte.
Ugh.
Ooh.
Ugh,
So
gross.
talking about putting weird flavors together,
Wow.
right?
Coffee.
Coffee and
and
buffalo
buffalo coffee.
flavored sauce. Kind of.
Like Buffalo Wild Wing
That's what it appears to be.
or like Wild Buffalo?
It sounds
They
like
sound
buffalo.
equally
Like buffalo's
disgusting.
like they don't sound really good either way.
Buffalo
That's
skin
one of those
latte.
things-
Meat
It's like
latte
a-
or buffalo wing sauce. I don't know, but
That's one of those things that's like somebody will buy it just because
sure.
coffee is in that space now, right? Like I
Right.
could just make a coffee anything,
Exactly.
and somebody would buy it.
My wife brought
Yeah.
home cotton candy flavored grapes.
Yeah.
They're
Seen
good.
those.
They
They're
are
actually pretty good.
It's kind of like there's a
I like
niche
it.
where you could just make a CrossFit anything, and somebody would buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you put out something ridiculous and fast and in mass, then people will at least buy it to buy for somebody else.
You
And
just
be
have to
like,
be
this was
quick.
stupid enough. I
Yeah.
thought I would buy it for you. Or here's
Yeah.
a gag gift, or here's a memento. There was one more thing that I was about to talk about, and I can't remember what it was, and it seemed
it
like it was really important.
Any of the programs?
It wasn't about the programs. It was about, I know what it was. Did y'all see my birthday present? I know I need to get to John. I'm sorry, but I got to
I'm
get
just thoroughly
on
entertained.
Hey, it's all about you, man.
because John's going to appreciate this.
He has to mention this every show. The 72.
I do, and John will know exactly what I'm talking about, and he'll be in full agreement with me. Okay, so in high school, I've been trying to convince Amanda that John and I are about the same size. I was a 6'5" All-American. And now that you're here, you're kind of blowing up my argument that I am 6'5". And so I lost my highlight film. So I'm always having them refer to my high school football picture, and I'm getting on to them because they don't give me any respect for my accomplishments in high school. They never asked to see my highlight film. They never asked to wear my helmet or see me in a jersey or anything like that. So my birthday was this week. Amanda gives me a package, and what she has done is she has gone to a fellow teammate of mine, gotten his VCR tape, and converted it to DVD.
I think I saw you post that on Facebook.
That's pretty damn strong.
That
isn't
is.
it?
It's aggressive.
I mean, that's a wife
like it.
right
She
there.
will never be able to top that one.
I bet she will. She'll pull something.
They
out
usually
of her
find a
head.
way.
Yeah, she's pretty incredible.
Find a way
with,
to make you look bad.
Let's call it what it is.
Right.
So Vaughn, you can come over anytime and we'll watch the highlight film.
Oh, she's making me a copy of it.
Speaking of highlight films, Jon Autrey's here, who played collegiate football. Where did you play high school? If you walked on a field at a level above high school, you're a hell of an athlete.
So I went to play my freshman year of college. I went to play Division III football for Illinois Wesleyan University. It's in Bloomington, Illinois. I was recruited to play offensive line, and I was 6'3", 275-ish. And first day of full contact during two-a-days. First drill, second play. It was a 3-on-3 blocking drill, and I took a slam step to get up to the second level and hit the linebacker, and my right wrist just kind of like didn't want to work anymore. But I didn't know it was my wrist because I have bad shoulders too, and I constantly would have my shoulders hurt every time I played football. Like even I'd have to sit out a few plays, whatever, and come back in. Finished the practice. Long story short, I ended up finding out later that day that I had broken the radius of my right wrist and pulled all the ligaments off the bone.
Oh my God.
And so I finished the practice that way.
Well, I was
didn't
going to
know
say,
it.
did you finish
Yeah,
practice?
I finished practice. Like I had no idea that it was that bad. I thought I was in some pain and I'd just deal with it. So I'm sure that helped matters. Yeah. And so that was how I went to go play college football. And then I made the decision I'm gonna get back. I lost some weight because I wasn't in the weight room. I wasn't eating however many thousands of calories a day I would normally eat. And so I was out the entire season. And that February, I was starting to put weight back on, hitting the weight room again. Got a hernia, inguinal hernia. At that point, I was kind of like, I'm 6'3". I'm a slow guy, at least for football standards. I was like, I kind of want to feel decent later in life, and I was going, that's enough of that.
How much? Rewind. How much did you weigh again?
I was 6'3", 275.
Okay.
And you're easy internet 6'6". You could get away with it. You should be telling
Football
people-
roster, I was 6'5",
Yeah.
290. But
I pulled off the 6'1" one time. I'm holding tight that I'm 6 foot. I made the roster at 6'1". I was really proud of that. But I still look back on that and think I probably could have squeezed another inch out of him if I would have asked hard enough and had it in print.
right.
And then it could have been up
We
underneath
could have
my
posted that next to the
picture.
And then that makes it permanent.
You said you're from Memphis, right?
I am from Memphis.
Where did you play high school?
In the suburbs of Chicago. I went to a high school called Schaumburg High School, northwest suburbs. It's probably 30. Well, now it could be longer given traffic up there, but it's 30 to 40 minutes northwest of the city.
When did you move to Chicago?
When I was 10.
Okay.
I moved back to Memphis after my freshman year because one of the things about Division III is it's non-scholarship. So I qualified
All the way across the board, Division III?
for football, for athletics. It's non-scholarship. And so when I decided I wasn't going to play football anymore, it was kind of like the certain grants and so forth that I'd qualified for, I didn't qualify for them anymore. And it was Lake Road's it was a liberal arts school, very expensive, and I was kind of like, I don't want to be saddled with $120,000 of debt when I got out of college. So I moved back to Memphis, and I had roots here, family here, and went to the University of Memphis.
Now,
Up there.
do you have a brother named Jared
I do.
that played baseball at White Station?
I do.
An incredible athlete himself, correct?
He is by far and away, as I mentioned, all the boys in my family. My two brothers, the oldest brother is a chef. He's very artistic. My middle brother Jared is by far and away the most athletic of the three of us, and I'm the youngest, and I kind of do a hodgepodge of things.
Yeah.
So,
Do I know some stuff or what?
how do you know Jared?
Our friend David Lomax, who's also been on the podcast, played baseball at White Station. I don't think they played the same time. I think David just knew of his athleticism. When I said you were going to be on the podcast, he started talking about your brother. He said he was a hell of a shortstop.
He was. He went to go play. He actually moved to Illinois when we moved to Illinois with us. In his freshman year, he played JUCO for a large junior college up there called Harper Community College. And he was good and he played, but he hurt his back, sliding into second base and messed it up and never kind of got right. Moved back to Memphis as well after his freshman year of college and attended the University of Memphis. And, he's a great golfer. I mean, he competes. He now lives in Charlotte, competes very well in tournaments there. And he's a great baseball player and he's just all-around athlete.
Nice. So you come back from college, you're 275 pounds. What do you care anything about fitness? Would you rather just get to 300 pounds and be completely worthless, or do you want to? What's the drill?
When I moved back to Memphis, it was predominantly out of necessity, right? I knew that I had family here, roots here, and so I moved in to my mom's apartment, a studio apartment in Midtown, and I slept on a futon mattress on her floor. I was in the process of establishing residency, so I could go to the University of Memphis as an in-state student, and I didn't have a car or anything. So originally, it was she would drive to work at Le Bonheur, and I would, if I needed her car, I'd run and go get her car. At the time, I probably weighed about 230, 240 pounds, somewhere in there. I'd lost some of the weight, as I mentioned, from not just being in the weight room and eating a bunch of food and that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of how it started.
How far was it?
It was 1.8 miles.
Okay.
And it was just, I'd run straight down Poplar to the parking lot. Her apartment was right off of right off of Poplar and Evergreen. And I'd run straight down Poplar, get her car if I needed it, and then go to work or go wherever, and I'd pick her up on my day when her day was done. So that's how it started. And over the course of that was when I was 19, so that would have been 2002. Over the course of the next 8 or 9 years, I kind of ran off and on. Like I'd train for a half marathon, and then I'd run the half marathon, and then I'd stop running the half. I'd just kind of take time off. And I kind of went that way. I'd do Nashville in the spring and St. Jude in the winter, and that's just kind of how it was. So it wasn't really necessarily, like I wanted to lose weight, but it wasn't necessarily the primary objective. But it was a happy side effect, if you will.
And this is during college. So you're just going to school and that's it.
Well, so at that point in time, I was working. When I went to school, ultimately, when I got in Memphis in the spring semester, I worked full time and went to school full time.
Okay.
I was a server and bartender at Outback in Midtown, and did that, and I did those full time. So I kind of ran. Like in college, I never really. I mean, I ran a couple of, like I said, I ran a couple of half marathons. But I never really ran more than like 3 or 4 miles at a time. That's all it was until I got out of college. And, I kind of always wanted to become a decent enough runner. I was like, I want to go to Boston one day. I had to learn what that entailed, and just seemed impossible to do that. Like, it just seemed like, gosh, at the time it was at the time, for my age group, to qualify for Boston, you had to run a 3-hour, 10-minute, 59-second marathon.
God.
And that was what it was. So I always said, if I ever run a sub 7-minute half, I'll try the marathon. So I did that eventually. And then I was kind of like, all right, well, let's go try to qualify for Boston. The first time I ran a marathon, I ran like 3 hours, like 15 minutes or something like that.
That's incredible.
So I missed by like 3 minutes.
All right, hold on. So back up to the if I'm going to run a sub 7 half. What did you just do that on your own?
No, so I use Hal Higdon training plans.
Okay.
Hal Higdon, it's kind of like his plans have gotten more, not tailored, but there's more options now online.
Yeah.
But I just Googled half marathon training plan.
Right, okay.
I'd go up to the Elma
So
Road.
you did do it on your own pretty much. I mean, that was,
At that point in time, I did.
Yeah.
And we were talking about my brother. He's a good athlete. Like, all three of us are kind of athletes. It runs in our family. Like, my oldest brother played baseball at Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri. My dad played baseball at Belhaven College. I had an uncle that played baseball at Miami. My grandfather played football at Florida. Like, it's in our family. It's in our blood. And so, running for me kind of came naturally. My wife always reminds me of that. She's like, you have that kind of a quote unquote natural gift for a non-true elite runner. And that's kind of true. Like, I did it on my own. I was always kind of around like a 7 to 7.5 minute marathoner, but one year I finally got through. Mm-hmm. And that was when I decided to make the leap to the marathon. and I did it, missed it. And that was
it? What marathon was
St.
it?
Jude.
Okay.
St. Jude. And that was 2000. Let's see, 13 got canceled.
13 got
10.
canceled?
2013 got canceled.
That was the ice.
That was the ice storm, which everyone got mad about. Yeah,
Wow.
everyone got mad about that. But that day, like a bunch of people went out and did the run on the course anyway. There's a massive tree that had fallen in Overton Park on the course, and someone could have been setting up the course, and that could have fallen on a car. That alone.
yeah.
But you know, a lot of good came out of that because the cool story that came out of that was everybody donated their medals.
They did.
To the kids.
That was really cool.
That was probably the coolest thing.
That was awesome, and that was something that no one could have seen coming. That was a really cool thing. Made those kids' days, and St. Jude's. I'll come back to it, but St. Jude's another thing, and especially my wife and I. Like we both volunteered there. She volunteered there for 5 years. I volunteered there for 3 years, and this, as we know, the city rallies around that place. We got the St. Jude ride this weekend too.
Yeah.
So the one that got canceled, that was the first marathon you signed up?
I was doing the math in my head. So
Okay.
2010 was my first marathon.
Okay. And you ran that in 3:15.
15-ish. Yeah. 2011.
Gee, when you were running from,
It's like, hold on.
we keep on backing you up. This is rather rude.
No,
That's
you
like
were
a-
born.
Fun.
That's a 7:18 pace or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
7:15.
Yeah.
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 It's really fast, and I know this because I on my second marathon
Yep.
that I ever ran, I decided I was going to try to qualify for Boston.
So you know the pace.
I know the pace
the
very
pace.
well, and it's really fast. It's so fast. When I was running the race, I was like, another mile, really? Another one, and I hung on. To be fair, I hung on like 15 miles, and then I just went.
It's hard
Like,
to do.
It's terrible. Yeah. So that was your first marathon.
That was my first one.
which was my qualifying time.
Now, when you're running to get your mom's car from her apartment, what does that look like? Are you just a college guy that's running in some blue jeans? Like, I just got to run down and get my mom's
I'd
car.
be in like gym shorts, like basketball kind of style shorts.
Are
Probably.
you paying attention to how your mile time?
No, not at the time. No, I didn't really start doing that until I ran a couple of 5Ks in college, but nothing seriously. And then until I started doing half marathons is probably when I started doing that, which was probably 2000. My first marathon was 10. My first half was probably like 06 or something, 07.
If you're intense enough in any sport to go to the next level from high school, I think that you have that something that's going to make you push harder than most people will.
I think there's a certain level of discipline. I think that has to get you there. I mean, even when I started high school, I was like 5'10", 155 pounds soaking wet. And then over the course of high school, it was kind of like I started getting taller and getting stronger and spending time in the weight room. And I played football, baseball, basketball my freshman and sophomore year. And then junior, senior year, I decided to just play football. That's how I got big, was just focusing on that.
So what is your growth after you finish your first marathon in 3 hours and 15 minutes? Where do you go from there?
Well, I was 3 odd minutes away from qualifying. So I was like, I still want to qualify. So 2010, I go to run it again. And let me think. 2010, I did not run it again. 2010, I think I ran the half. 2011, I missed everything altogether. 2012, I went and ran 2011, I ran like 3:40 at the full at St. Jude. And I just, wasn't fun. It just didn't feel good. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this. Like running a marathon, if you're going to run a marathon, you got to run a marathon. Like either I got to do it or I'm not going to do it. Because like I hurt, like I looked like a ghost. I was like stuff coming out everywhere. I was sick, and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was like, "What are you? What? Like I can't deal with you doing this." And we may have been married, maybe been 11. I can't remember yet. It's all a blur at this point. Like I said, 2 kids, so you guys understand.
I get it.
So I was kind of like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So 2012, I put weight back on too at that point. I got to like 225. I got down to like low 2s.
Hold on a second.
That guy gets it.
Hold on. This guy is like, okay, then I went back and ran 340, and I was coming out of places. Well, here's what happens when a guy like me runs 3:43 it gets framed and put on the wall.
Right. So like that's the thing.
I don't care what's coming out of me. I ran 3:43
And that's awesome.
On the
That's
wall.
fantastic. And like, I have to be careful about that. 'Cause, like, I don't mean to like say it's not a good time, but for me, it was like I was in so much discomfort.
Right.
Actually, I know it was 2011 now because we were living in East Memphis, so it was 11. But like, and it's a great time.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, it is. It's fast.
It's awesome.
I'm super proud of it.
You should be. But it just wasn't right. And like, it's like the next year I really kind of worked toward it. But at that point, the qualifying time had dropped to 3:05 for Boston. They'd shaved 5 minutes off and taken the extra 59 seconds away to qualify. So now it's just 3:05.
Let me interrupt. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying hearing this because I asked you where this goes, and it turns out I know sort of where this goes. I thought it was a typo, and I actually corrected it in your biography. So continue. When I saw your accomplishment, I thought, no, he didn't mean that.
Oh, no. Yeah, I know where
Correcting
it
his
goes.
accomplishment.
Yeah, no.
So, I took the liberty of
I'll have to see
correcting
that.
your own information,
Works for
your
me.
stats.
My wife does it, so it works. So 2012, I lost some of the weight again, and I ran like 3:08 at St. Jude. So I missed again by like 3 minutes.
Oh.
All right. And I had this coworker at the time.
And it's going down, but your time is going down because your age. Like, I mean, your qualifying time is going.
Boston changes every few years. They'll change the qualifying standard, is how it's referred to, because they'll have too many people qualifying.
Okay.
And so they do it to make the race more elite.
People just get faster.
They get faster. More people get interested in it. So like this year, the official standard for males under the age of 34, I'll be 35 next year, so I got a few more minutes for next year. But for 18 to 34 for 2018 Boston Marathon, it's still a 3:05. But the time it took to actually get in the race was like 2 or 3 minutes below the standard. So you could run a 3 hour and 4 minute marathon if you're a male that's 29 years old and you submit to Boston for this next race this next year, and you're not running it because they let you in based on how fast you are versus your standard. So there's gonna be someone that runs a 4 hour marathon that's however old, whatever, and they'll get in versus the 29-year-old guy that runs a 3:04 because they beat their standard by more. So it changes. So
Gotcha.
it just happened to be that they had bumped it down for 5 minutes and 59 seconds by 2012. So I still missed it. And I had a coworker who, great athlete. The guy was his name was Bjorn. He was a alternate at the Calgary Olympics for cross country skiing. Just like really good athlete. He's really big into like CrossFit now, I believe actually. But he had a running coach at the time, and he kind of gave me a hard time. He's like you're too fat to ever qualify for Boston. Like it was like a friendly kind of thing. Like it's like locker room giving each other a hard time. And and
It's kind of like when Wilson talks to me.
Yeah, but neither one of us do anything about it.
well, right.
Damn right, I'm fat.
Badge of honor.
It's important to point that out because since we do this lift heavy run long thing, like when I tried to do that, I was like, okay, you got to run a little bit more. You're gonna have to make so you got this strength and speed thing here. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to make a little bit more sacrifice on the strength side if you're gonna go qualify for Boston.
Something's got to give
because that's quick.
Right.
You're gonna have to run a little bit more than you do. I might not run as much as you do, and I might be doing a little more of this, but you're gonna have to make a sacrifice. You're not gonna be able to just continue gaining
and being
make
bulky
gains
and,
on the strength and be that big dude and go qualify for Boston. Most of 98%
there's a few people
of the
that
time,
are built that can do that.
It's not going to happen. Right. And I quickly realized it for myself. You're too big of a dude to be doing this.
And it's about energy usage and your size and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so he had a running coach, and he was like, if you really want to do it, you need to contact my coach that I've worked with. And I was like, give me his information, sure. So that was in December of 2012 because I just missed. And so I fire an email off to Kevin Leathers. And
love me some Kevin, man.
Kevin is the man. He is sensei. And
he's going to be on the podcast in a few weeks.
Is he really? Mm-hmm. Yay! That's awesome.
Kevin.
That'll be a good one.
That'll be a
St.
great
Jude.
podcast.
But I'd like to remind him that I'm here
Keto.
before him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he's just trying to be like you.
I can say that with in this instance.
That's right.
So I hired Kevin, and we first started working together in January of 13. And my next marathon was going to be the New Orleans Marathon in February. So I'd run to St. Jude, and then I had February was going to be New Orleans.
What year again? I'm sorry.
This is 2 months after St. Jude, so February of 13. And he's like, I think I can get you under 305 by then. We need to tinker with your hydration and some stuff like that, and we'll do it on some of your long runs and see how it goes. Well, I went to New Orleans in February, and lo and behold, I ran a 3 hour and 57-second marathon. So knocked off 7 minutes in 2 months and qualified for Boston, and that was like a really exhilarating feeling. And at that point, I was like, all right, how fast can we get?
Say that one more time.
Wait, a 3
2
hour
hour and
57?
57. You said
3 hour, 57-second marathon.
Oh, got it. I was
three
thinking
hours,
minutes in my head.
3 hours,
Yeah.
57 seconds.
Got
Oh,
To which a bunch of people were like, oh, you're never going to under 3 hours yet. That was your chance to go under 3 hours. You won't ever do it now. And I was like,
I hate those.
we'll see
people.
about that. We'll see about that.
Yeah. Forget about them.
So I qualified now for Boston. That was qualifying for Boston in 14. So I got ready for St. Jude that year, which was St. Jude 13, the year of the ice storm. Got canceled. So my next marathon wasn't until Boston in 14. And so I'd been working with Kevin for that point, for 15 months, 16 months. That was the year after the bombing. And so it was a really special year that year up in Boston. And I went up there and ran 2:37:35.
Woo! Man.
So
And that's quite an accomplishment too, because that's a hard race, right?
It is
that's
a very
not like
difficult race.
I've heard a lot of people say it's not like going and running a regular marathon, or
It's very different.
It's very hard.
is it hilly? What's the difference?
So it's not that it's hilly per se, but so it's different because it starts later than a lot of marathons. You have to it's a point-to-point course. So most marathons are loops, or they come back, or they kind of.
I didn't know
St.
that.
Jude
You
is,
go
yeah.
from one place to the other.
So
Okay.
in the morning at like 6 a.m. you got to hop on a bus, depending on when your start time is. You drive a bus. I think the start line's actually 24 miles away because the way the course winds a little bit. We drive out to Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and then you sit behind Hopkinton High School in a field for 2 or 3 hours, and then you go line up, and at 10 a.m. for me, at 10 a.m. you go start, and you start your race, and you run from Hopkinton, Massachusetts to Boylston Street in Boston.
Wow.
And so what makes the course so challenging is, A, the timing is weird, right? Like when you're in St. Jude, it starts at like 8 a.m. You're not getting up at 3 a.m. unless you just got nerves, but you're not going to purposely get up at 3 a.m. to get ready for that race. So there's that. But then
What time does this start?
Boston starts at 10 a.m., which is it's a little different. Because like for me, and it depends on when you do your training runs too. They say you should train how you race. So like I run in the mornings. I get up early. I get them done. So anything different is kind of weird. Mm-hmm. So that can be one challenge for a lot of people. Another is the way the course is laid out. People say Boston's so hilly. It's so hilly. It's so hilly. It is, but what makes it really challenging is it's the way the hills hit. So the first 15 miles of the race are a net downhill, a pretty substantial net downhill. And as runners will tell you, the hard part about running hills is the downhill. That's what tears your body up. You're putting the brakes on when you're going downhill, and it rips your quads apart. And then at mile 15 and a half, you get to what's called the Newton Hills. The next 5 miles, you climb. So you've gotten your quads torn up from running downhill, and not to mention everyone thinks they got to run super fast because they're running downhill. They're not paying attention, so they've gone out too fast. They got their quads beaten up, and then you got to climb. So you got to climb for the next 5 miles, and it's pretty brutal. And the last of those hills is the infamous Heartbreak Hill, and I couldn't even tell you if it's the biggest hill or not of the 5, but it's the meanest because it's the last one. And once you crest that one, you're pretty much downhill for the last 5 miles or so. But so it's the way the hills are laid out that make it such a challenging course. And if you don't run it the right way, you'll pay for it, and more so than a lot of other courses, where they're either flat or it's you'll hit hills and you'll go down. It's the way it's laid out that makes it so challenging. So that was 2014, and I've run the last 4. I ran my PR there in 2015, which I'd probably classify that as my best marathoning year. 2015, I ran a PR at Boston. It was 30-mile-an-hour headwinds, which on a point-to-point makes a difference, right? It's not like a loop, it ever gets at your back. It's in your face the entire time.
Oh, man.
Gus got up to like 40.
Jeez.
But that was a PR for me. And
I wonder if I could even move forward. At that
it was brutal. But at the same time, it kept you cool, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
I've learned that the last 2 years, because the last 2 years it's been in the 70s with no shade, and that's been brutal. But I ran 2:36.04 in 2015, and that was my PR, it's a 5:57 pace.
2:36.04.
5:57.
5:57 per mile
Yeah.
every mile.
My PR half marathon's 2:22. He's basically running a whole marathon while I run my half.
Yeah. I don't even know what mine is, but it's not good.
Hey, look, that's one thing I always stop people and say is like, oh, it's not good. Or it's not like we're all runners. Like we're runners, right?
Yeah.
We're a pretty awesome community. Like be
Yeah.
proud of that.
Yeah.
Like that's something that you should never like qualify what kind of runner you are. Like you're out there, and I'm a coach too, and I coach runners that are doing marathons to runners. I'm trying to get to do a 5K for the like everything in between. And it's important that like to me it's really important that we're all runners, right?
You're right. You're exactly right.
And people need to be proud. People qualify that stuff too much, and like I'm not knocking you for doing it because like people do it. Like, you know, if it's like you just deadlifted 315, you wouldn't come out and like, oh, I just did 315. Like, hell no, man, you deadlifted 315.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny how we do
It's a
that.
challenge.
Too. How we find that. How we find our worst and we go there and we put that on display. And I do that. Everybody does that.
We all do it.
Joking in some
Absolutely.
form or fashion. But you're right. To hear someone else, if I hear someone else say that, I think take that back. Like,
Right.
don't talk that way.
You're working and
but it's
challenging
the
yourself.
first place that I go.
It is, and we all do it to some degree.
Yeah.
And I hear it a lot, and I don't mean this in any kind of arrogant way, but it's because locally I'm a relatively fast runner. And
Right.
So people say it to me, and like, so I hear it, and I'm just like, time out. You know, you're awesome. You're out here doing it. You're trying to better yourself and push yourself, and that's what matters. But then in 2015, we welcomed our first baby boy. That was 2 months after Boston. And as anyone knows, sleep can be a challenging thing with new babies. Yes. But that year, thanks
Chris
to...
has like 28 of them.
That's what I heard. Was it 5?
He's got a
I lost
whole.
count after 5.
Yeah.
It was my wife has. That's the other thing. My wife made a big difference in all this. Like she has always encouraged me and supported me in my running, and like she doesn't treat it as like, oh, you got to go run. She's like, go do it. Like get it done.
That's awesome.
I get it. It makes you better. It makes you happier. It makes you healthier. It makes our household better because it makes you feel good and creates a good energy.
Puts you in a good mood.
It does. It does. I mean, you see studies all the time about how running and exercise help depression and that kind of stuff, and like there's something to it. But in 2015, with a 6-month-old, I was fortunate after finishing third in 2014 at St. Jude. I was fortunate enough to win the St. Jude Marathon.
I'm going to give you a high five.
I'd love that.
Do you leave after finishing third? Like, gosh.
I wanted to, but like I knew about halfway in that it wasn't gonna be I was in the lead about mile 15, but I almost stepped off the course when you got back downtown after like the half marathon. I saw my wife because she and her mom were cheering for me, and I was kind of like I didn't feel right, and it was weird because like you run and you run and you run and you run, and I was running my pace. I wasn't pushing myself or anything, but my legs weren't right. I could tell. But I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this thing, you know. And I got third, and I was thrilled about that. But I wanted to come back the next year, and I had no idea how I was gonna do. You don't know. You only know locally who's there. You don't know if there's in 13 the guy that won was from Baltimore, so you just don't know who's gonna show up. In 15 I was 14 the guy was from Baltimore. 15 I was fortunate enough to go out and run my race, and I wanted the PR, and I didn't. But like I knew early on, about halfway, I knew it wasn't gonna be a PR day, and I was like, but I'm in first. So I changed entirely what I was doing to run the back half of the race to hold the lead. And that's what I did.
What do you mean? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay, can I ask a question also on top of that, unless you mean the same thing? How do you – I'll never be first in a race. How do you know – I mean, I know there's nobody in front of you, but how do you kind of realize, hey, I am in first, and how to hold that?
What's your behavior?
Yeah.
So I didn't know – and because like we started at the same time as the half marathoners. I didn't know I was in first until I started getting near St. Jude's campus in mile 3 or mile 4 when I saw a guy on the breakaway race team was spectating, and he was like, hey, you're in first. Because the bib colors are different. Yeah. So at that point, I knew I was in first. So anytime someone passed me...
the bib colors being different.
purple.
You don't necessarily know if you're passing someone else.
Correct. But I knew I was in first at that point. But I had people pass me, so when they pass, I just kind of... just check them real quick when they were coming past me. And so I knew that I was in first. And then like I see people on the course that know me and like, hey, you're in first. So I knew where I was, and I had the lead bike with me. And
I didn't know there's a lead bike.
yeah,
I didn't know there was a bike.
I didn't know anybody led that like that.
it was that almost caused a problem actually, but I'll get to that in a second. But so what you like? You're asking how do I switch gears?
Adjust, yeah. What does that look like? Like,
So-
you go, okay, I'm in the lead. I want to stay here. I'm
Right.
gonna do what?
So the goal when I went out is like, because I didn't go out to aim to win the race. I went out to go PR. That was my goal. So I wanted to beat a 5:57. So for the first 10, 12, 13 miles, whatever, I was right around that pace. I might run a 5:50 mile and then drop a 6:03, but I was hovering right in that range. But I could just tell by the way my body felt and the temperature, and just I was like, all right, if I try to hammer this thing, I'm gonna break down. So I backed it off just a little bit. So I'm looking at my watch. I backed it off behind.
And how often do you look at your watch?
When I'm running a marathon, I typically just check it at the miles, at the splits. If I'm out just doing a long run, just doing a run, unless it's like a speed, like I'm doing a tempo run or like a really structured speed work, I don't really check it. I just, like this morning I ran 10 miles for work. I didn't look at my watch until I got done.
But you know while you're running mentally the difference between a 5:50 and a
Oh, yeah.
6:03.
Yeah. At that point,
I don't know the difference between a 12 and a 15.
I don't do most of my runs at that pace, right? So most of my runs, I run 5 days a week. 2 to 3 of those runs are pretty easy. I'm running pretty easy for me. Like I'm running the 7 to 7:30 pace on those easy days. Just like when you're in the weight room, you're not going to go. Like, it's such another thing too. Is runners have the hardest time with this. It's like your easy days have got to be easy. It's just like you're not going to be in a weight room. And you're not going to go out and do your chest on Monday, your chest on Tuesday, your chest on Wednesday, your chest on Thursday. You're not going to do that. You're going to go out and do chest on Monday, back on Tuesday, lower body Wednesday, arms on Thursday. You're going to mix it up because you have to recover. If you just beat it to death,
It's so hard for people to understand.
It's very difficult.
People just want to go balls to the wall.
I think if I want to be faster, I got to go hard. No, you got to rest and recover. So, but I do know, back to your point, I do know I can feel different paces, and typically I can feel when I'm going around a certain pace. And how long I'm holding it. I have a pretty good sense of it. But so I backed it off, and then so I knew I was in first place, and let someone pass me because at that point we're past the half marathon split, right? So no one else is passing me unless they're running the marathon. Yeah. And then people on the course say, "Hey, you're in first, or whatever."
Did you know how far the second place was behind
Did
you?
not know.
Okay.
I did not.
So somebody had been like, he's right behind you.
Right.
That was
Right.
I was going to ask. There has to be some sort of discipline in maintaining your energy or anxiety without just constantly going.
Yeah.
Well, because there's got to be at least a handful of dudes on the side of the road going, "Oh, you're winning! He's right behind you!"
And everyone's out there drinking too.
And
They're all hanging
and like
out.
this guy doesn't even know you're running the marathon.
Right.
He doesn't
Hey,
know
you're
who.
first, man.
I haven't seen anybody else, so
Here
you
he
must be
comes.
winning.
Right.
Here he comes.
So you can't listen to those people.
You got to block it out.
Yeah.
You do, and it is. I don't want to say nerve wracking because I can only control what I can control. Right? I can't control the weather. I can't control. It's not a thing. It's a team sport in the sense that like I have a coach and like I have people who support me and encourage me, but it's not like back to playing football. I'm not relying on the guy next to me on a zone blocking scheme to pick up somebody so I can leave and go to the next level. Like I can only control what I can control. So if I'm worrying about the guy behind me, he's already in my head. So I'm just running until I get to like mile 20. Oh, sorry. So the new course on East Parkway, I don't know how familiar you are with Midtown. There's this like weird little like offshoot that goes up off East Parkway, I think to Harbert.
Yes.
And it's we had to run up that, which is just really mean. And then so we're going down Harbert, and the only reason I knew this is because I did my training runs on the course. You took a left on to Cooper, and then you'd head towards Southern. Well, the lead cyclist didn't know that, which is fine, but the course wasn't marked. So he went down Harbert past Cooper, and had I not known, I would have followed on with him.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, "Oh no!" And he comes back and gets in front of me, and it was fine. But like, that was a little nerve wracking for me. I was like, I second guessed it, and I was like, do what you know. And I was fortunate, I was right. And then, just kept going and going and going, and like the last couple of miles were painful, and I didn't see the second place finisher until there was a spot downtown where like you made this like loop, and I can't remember what roads it was on. It's like Madison and Monroe or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're going over like a little overpass, and I saw him on the opposite overpass. So like I was going one way, he was going the other.
What mile
Oh
was
yeah.
25-ish.
Okay.
So
So you were pretty good ways ahead of him.
I
'cause I know what you're
was.
talking about. Where
yeah,
you
it
come
was
back.
about
So
ended
you
up being
go down
about
and
2
come around.
minutes.
Yeah.
But like I still saw him. I was like, oh God. But at that my last 2 miles, my pace dropped off dramatically. So I didn't know what was going on. I didn't ask anyone if anyone was behind me until I got to like mile I was like 25 point something. I was on 4th Avenue running towards Union, and I actually saw a guy and girl I went to college with, and I was like, Jake Kinsey, is anyone behind me? They're like, no. Like, why are you asking me? They didn't know. I don't know if they knew I was in the lead or not. Right. And then next thing I know, I turn on and I get onto 4th right by Redbird Stadium. And I see my wife and the guy that introduced me to my wife standing there, and they're going bonkers. And like, I turn into the stadium, and it's like,
I got this.
Yeah.
it's
Like,
done
oh,
now.
yeah.
Don't fall down. Don't trip. Don't
What does that feel like?
It was. I just got chill bumps talking.
Yeah,
about it.
I got
I
chill
did
It was
too.
bumps.
I
surreal.
actually
It
did
was
too.
so surreal, and like I still remember Kevin. Like
Like, all this for me?
it's what it felt like. It really did, and like I missed it because my buddy tried to hand me a beer when I went by. I would have loved to have grabbed that and just been like stone cold, just like, oh hell yeah. That would have been
Can you do
clutch.
that this year?
That would have been awesome.
Let's do that.
But I remember seeing my coach. I saw Coach Kevin like at one point, like mile 24, 25, and I was just hurting at that point. And he was just like, you got to go and get it.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, he's right, I do. And I just kept my mantra for the last 2 miles was like, you're in the pain cave, and you're just like thinking, how do I get through this? And I was just like thinking to myself, no one's gonna give it to me. I got to go take it. And I just repeated that in my head for 2 miles, and that was the longest 2 damn miles.
It is. Oh, I can imagine.
I love the analogy, pain cave.
It's a pain cave, man. The 5K is more of a pain cave for me. That's another thing too. People are always like, "Oh, 5Ks must be easy for you." I hate 5Ks.
I hate when people say that.
I hate 5Ks.
I feel the same way.
You're running so much harder. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going the same pace. I'm running a lot
You're
harder.
suffering
Yeah.
a
It's
lot.
brutal.
You suffer.
Yeah, that is the pain, especially in Memphis when 5K season is. It's like 96 degrees.
Yeah, I'm gonna go run the firecracker 5K.
Right.
As hard as I possibly
brutal.
can. It's terrible.
Those things are bad.
But they're part of the process. So, that was finishing. That was really cool. And then like Kevin was there at the finish line, and because he's so involved with St. Jude, and like so he's able to be there and like give me a big hug, and that was really emotional. And like I was down, they wouldn't let me leave the field either, like because they wanted to take pictures with me and the female winner and like interview us and all this stuff. Like the whole time I just wanted to go see my wife, and she was up in like I couldn't get to her. She couldn't get to me.
Kind
It
of
was
like the Rocky movie.
It felt like that.
I don't know if this is a stupid question, but do they do drug testing for that?
No, because they don't pay anymore. So
Oh, they don't?
that's part
Okay,
of.
I didn't realize
That's
that.
one thing
Okay.
I can qualify it with. Like I don't mean to qualify my win, but just the course record's like a 220 something, and the guys used to come run it. And I think they used to pay like 10 grand or 15 grand for the winner, and like $5 grand, $3 grand, or whatever. But I don't remember what year it was. It was it wasn't the aughts. It was something in the teens, and they didn't pick the cones up from the 5K.
They took the wrong
They
course.
took the wrong. So
I
the
remember.
lead pack took the
no.
wrong course,
Yeah.
and so they got stuck paying. They had to DQ those guys,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
they
And
got
those
stuck.
guys are like professional.
Yeah, they were like way
there
out
to
in
make-
front. Yeah, they were there to make money.
Yeah.
And they were like, so they had to DQ them, but they didn't hold them responsible because they were following the lead car, and the lead car was following, and like so they're doing, and so they end up paying both sets of runners.
Oh wow.
And at that point, St. Jude was kind of like, my understanding is they were kind of like, we don't have to pay to get people to run our race,
Yeah.
which they don't. Like most
No.
Memphians
It's a
run it.
fundraiser.
It's a
yeah, yeah.
fundraiser. It's their biggest fundraiser. It's a big deal for that hospital. It's a big deal for the city.
Right.
And so they haven't paid since then.
That's
So-
why I don't run 2 and 3 hour marathons, is because there's all that confusion that goes on, and you don't go get to see your wife as soon as
You
you
have
finish.
to win, and then people bother
Yeah,
you.
they make you
and-
take pictures, and your phone
terrible.
rings,
We'll
so
do
it's
a
just
silly
easier to
podcast
run
like
7
this one.
7 hour marathons. and
Be
kind
your
of
hide.
let the crowd
Yeah.
die down. Everybody get home and get comfortable, and then come into an empty
Stay
stadium.
under the radar.
Do what you want.
I'll tell you what, though, we celebrated the right way that night, though. We left and went home and got Ben and Jerry's, and I went home and was
bet you did.
changing a diaper. Like, that was the way. Like,
Exactly.
wouldn't have had it any other way.
Was there a celebrity feel to it for
There-
days after that?
If I'm being completely honest, there was, and there still kind of is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is very, very cool. I got to. They didn't put it in print, but a couple months later, I was featured on RunnersWorld.com.
Really?
Wow, that's
I
awesome.
got interviewed and got to do something for that, and then it's led to a lot of other really great things.
Yeah, that's the. I think that was one of the first images or pictures I've seen of you when I was looking you up. Was the runner
when I'm running, and that's from pictures
Yeah,
from the race.
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
The pyramids. I found the pyramids
Yeah,
in
it
the
was the
background.
pyramid.
Yeah,
It was in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said you're coaching people. Like, that's got to be a qualifier. Like, can you be my running coach?
Sure.
Well, I won the St. Jude Marathon.
and-
Okay.
Yeah,
And that
Did,
does-
did
that
that
does
help.
did that make you a coach? Were you a coach before
So-
that, or did that you didn't have an option? You got all these people coming to you.
I was
Like,
a-
you might as well.
I was a RRCA Road Running Coaches of America certified coach already, but I wasn't. Like, I didn't like pursue it. Like, if someone wanted to contact me, I'd do it, but I didn't push on it. I started putting myself out there a little more for it, and really honestly, not until really this last year has it really kind of started to grow a little bit. I'm currently coaching 5 runners, but it's not my primary focus. My primary focus is kids and job and my own training, and then I'm figuring out how to balance all that. But
What kind of, if
Yeah.
you don't mind, you're coaching 5 coaches or 5
athletes
athletes right now. Is that something you do strictly local or?
Currently, it is.
Okay.
For example, though, like Kevin, my coach, he has a runner in Birmingham.
Okay.
And it just depends. Every coach sets it up kind of differently, and it's up to them how they do it and how they go about handling it. But there's different ways you can do it. Like, I know, like I was telling y'all earlier, a buddy of mine just ran Leadville. I've looked into it before, and there are coaches that are like Leadville coaches. They'll help you get like. Obviously, you can't go to Colorado to find that guy. Like, I can't do that. So coaches do coach remotely, though. It's very, very possible to do. But
Well, I know Vaughn does a little bit of remote coaching.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was going.
yeah,
See where you were going with it.
I would. I mean, I'd do it. I just don't have anyone that I have to do that with at this point.
Right.
But there was definitely a sense of celebrity. It feels weird to say that. I mean, like that weekend, I remember my wife and I leaving brunch from Bosco's, and I got stopped. And
Really?
and then I got the next week. I still remember the next week I got stopped at Whole Foods, and I'll still see people in grocery stores. A couple weeks ago, I was at Sprouts. A few weeks ago, I was at Sprouts, and somebody said something to me like, "Hey, are you so and so?" And I was like, "I am." And it's fun and it's cool.
And it
it's
wouldn't be the easiest thing in the world for you to go incognito
No.
with your size.
and the glare that my forehead emits. So I stick out. I'm 6'3" and
Well, when you got out of
bald.
the car a while ago, I mean, you got the body of a runner.
Yeah.
I mean, you got
Yeah.
the
He's a
wide
runner.
shoulders
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're built to run.
And it's taken work. I mean, even right now, I'm a little heavy right now. Again, having the newborn beer taste colder and fresher.
Exactly.
A slice of pizza is easier to eat than like grilling chicken and having broccoli and So I stepped on the scale recently. I was like, I gotta handle this. But
What do you weigh right now?
right now I'm 180-ish.
Okay.
When I'm in racing shape, full marathon racing shape, I'm probably anywhere between 168 and 173. So I'm not far away.
Is there a weight that you go for when you're?
If I'm in that sweet spot of 68, like the lightest I've ever gotten a couple of years ago, I got down to 159, which is it was post long run, so a lot of that was water. But when I stepped on the scale afterwards, I was a little like, whoa, that's kind of all right. Let's.
That's pretty thin.
That was a little
for being at
thin.
6
That was a
foot.
little thin.
Yeah.
So I like to be 168 to 173, 74. I used to stress a lot about the weight, but I've found that since having, and that was before the children, since having the boys, running isn't as important. It's not that it's important. It's that it's not like, it doesn't define me. And so I don't stress as much about got to watch my weight, got to do this, so I'm in a better place mentally, which helps the running too. I'm in a better place to go out and run, and I'm not as tired from it. I'm not as mentally exhausted from it. I'm not tired from being on point all the time. I don't get burned out as easily. So it's been a
Isn't that so
benefit.
important, regardless of what caliber athlete you are, finding that level that's like, I'm okay with this, and maybe I've missed out on a lot of the fun,
Right,
and a lot of
absolutely.
enjoyment. And maybe I should just start working on getting good with myself, which is why I started this in the first place.
Exactly. Don't lose sight of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I tell my athletes that I'm like, if we get to a point where I'm coaching you and we're working together, if we get to a point where this isn't fun, we need to talk, because like that's the thing you're out here most to do, is to make yourself better, whatever that is, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of the above. Or if you lose sight of that and to have fun, like if you get away from what you're trying to do, like what's the point? You know. And so I think that's hugely important. And for me, the last 2 years, I've run, as I've put it to people, I run more freely. Like it's not as burdened when I run. So
Yeah.
So
Well-
what's your next step? Like, what's your next goal?
I still want my dream goal in the marathon. I'm a long way, if I ever even get there, from doing it, was going sub 2:30. I don't know that I can ever do that. I was in pretty incredible shape. I was in the best shape of my life for Boston this year. But we got really poor marathon weather. It was like 75 and sunny at the start, and when you're on this course, the way it's set up, and it's springtime in Boston, there's no shade, there's nothing on the trees. It's just, you're going to cook. So that was frustrating. But what came of that was really cool. And this goes back to the celebrity stuff. Part of that, me going to Boston this year, I know some of the folks that work at Lululemon here in town, and one of the girls last year submitted me she's like, "Hey John, I need your email address. I'm submitting you for an experience in the springtime." Okay, whatever, sure. Here you go, Erica. So I sent Erica my email address, and that's all. Nothing else was said. And then one morning, I was doing some stretching after a run, after the marathon this last year. I didn't run St. Jude this last year in the half, and I did Chicago because I want to do all the marathon majors. That's another one, which are the 6 majors: Chicago, New York, London, Berlin, Boston, and Tokyo. So that's I want to get all those done eventually.
Cool.
But I'd run Chicago, and so I was just stretching in the living room, whatever, and I'm going through my email as one does when they're stretching and everyone's asleep in the house, and and I see this weird
Me too.
email. I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. It says, like, because when you register for Boston, like in any major marathon, like you get spammy kind of looking emails, like from like sponsors. I'm just typically delete them. So I get this email, and it looks kind of spammy, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of whatever. I kind of scroll through it, and at the end of it, I see it says Lululemon at the bottom. I was like, what? I go back to the top of the email, and I read it, and it sounds very catfishy. Like, it sounds like a joke. They're basically like, you've been selected as one of 80 runners globally to come to Boston on us. And so all you got to do is get your flight here. So they had hotel room booked for us at a hotel called The Verb, which was basically like in the parking lot of Fenway.
Whoa.
Wow.
And it was on Boylston, just on the opposite end of the race. And we got there, and like they rolled out the red carpet for us. I mean,
Wow.
like meals and drinks and excursions and clothes, and like
Sweet.
really cool experience. That also came from the St. Jude stuff. I get back after this experience, and like Lululemon is I've never really understood them until the Boston thing. Like, one of their core beliefs is give without expecting anything in return.
Right.
And that doesn't sound very corporate. And so, like, I kind of got it, though, once I got to Boston. And, like, it's truly, like, the people who work for them are truly, like, immersed in the corporate culture in a very positive way. They're very into helping others, helping the community, helping people be into sweating and finding the best them. And I learned that being there and through all the stuff that we did. And I got back, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to become an ambassador for Lululemon, which I am now. And basically, like, everyone's like, what does that entail? And it's kind of like, they just want me to be good for my sport. And they want to help me help runners and help me be what I want to do. And, like, there's 6 of us in town right now, and like Clark Butcher, who owns Victory in Pedaltown Bicycle, he's one of the ambassadors, and Olivia from Delta Groove Yoga, you know, she's another ambassador, and Kelly Supernaw, who is a Pure Barre instructor here in town, and that's just a couple of them. But like, they basically take these athletes and help lift them up, and like, it's another cool benefit that's come from winning St. Jude. Like, maybe it would have happened, I don't know, but like, it certainly didn't hurt. And so a lot of very fun things have happened. Being here with you guys, this is cool. I didn't get to used to do this. You know, you guys said you heard me on the radio a couple of times with Kevin. Just stuff like that, like stuff that didn't happen until I won that race. Not saying that's why it's happened, but it certainly didn't hurt.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So
that's really cool.
Man, remind me to check my emails. I'm sure they probably sent me that same thing. They probably got my.
You thought it was spam.
I thought it was spam, and they had seen me my time at Stanky Creek and thought, "Wow, this guy's really."
Yeah, I
something
love
special.
Lululemon. I'm in their Sweat Collective stuff.
Yes,
And
yes.
I've asked how to become an ambassador, and they've told me, and someday I hope to
Maybe
work
this
towards
year
that.
when you win the
yeah,
when you win the
when I win St.
All you
Jude
gotta do
Marathon.
is win a marathon.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like competition isn't their thing, right? So, like, I mean, they have yogis and they have cyclists and they have CrossFitters and they have, and it's awesome. Like, just it's a great company and their
Yeah,
clothes
they're
are fantastic. I remember before actually I got more involved with them. I was like, their clothes are so expensive for guy clothes. And
Oh,
like,
it's so worth it.
when you get them, it's like, oh my god, I'm wearing
It's like,
pants right now.
Give me another pair.
My whole
Right.
outfit's Lululemon right now.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
it lasts.
That's
They
what's
need
Yeah.
to pay for sponsors here.
But it's an honor to be a part of, and they're presenting me with some other cool opportunities. Hopefully
That's
over the next couple
That's
of years.
really
It's a
cool.
2-year gig, so
Sweet.
Nice.
Well, it's an honor to have you sitting here. I appreciate
This
you
is
taking the
awesome.
time to be here.
absolutely.
I could sit here and chew your ear off all night. We told you an hour. We've gone longer than that. But it's really been a pleasure meeting you.
I hope I didn't talk too much, and this is very
No,
Absolutely
No,
not.
this is
I
awesome.
know. One thing I wanted to say,
And from an audio snob, you have excellent vocals. So I'm just sitting
yeah,
there
yeah.
enjoying
Are they,
that.
can we describe them as buttery?
They are better.
you've gained a new fan in me for sure. And there's one thing I wanted to say is I appreciate runners like you, and I have another friend. Chris Witten, who is kind of the same way. Like the guy runs 2.5 hour marathons, and I just respect the hell out of that. But there's certain people that you just can't. You don't get to talk to them the way that we are talking to you, and I really appreciate that attitude of. Like, hey,
Very humble.
I'm just like everybody else. And,
Yeah.
and
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It is super inspiring just to be able to be around people like yourself, and because people think that oh my God, that dude won the St. Jude Marathon. I can't.
John, let me tell you
I'm
something.
not going to talk to
I'm
that
glad
guy,
we
you
got this on video. I think that's the first time Vaughn has ever expressed his feelings to somebody.
It's one of the few.
I'm happy to open that door.
I'm impressed.
So anyway.
You have impressed somebody.
Well, it's been a lot
There
of
you go.
fun, and
Yeah.
I'd be happy to come back and do it anytime again. So this is a wonderful
Great.
thing to do.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Lift Heavy Run Long, episode number 70 is in episode number 69 is in the
69.
book.
Debate.
My
This is
fault.
debate.
My fault.